How great would it be to get up close and personal with the beauty industry heroes we love and admire, and to ask them, how did you learn to do what you do? I'm Chris Baran, a hairstylist and educator for 40 plus years, and I'm inviting all our heroes to chat and share the secrets of their success. Well, my friends, welcome to another episode of Headcases, and this is an exciting one. Today's guest is Tippi Shorter Rank, and you probably know her as a celebrity stylist, and to name just a few of the celebs that choose Tippi to do the amazing work on their hair are people like Alicia Keys, Rihanna, Jennifer Hudson, Lady Gaga, Kim Kardashian, Serena Williams. Now, if that doesn't impress you enough, then she became the first Afro-American beauty professional spokesperson for Pantene and the first global artistic director for textured hair for Aveda. Now she's Mizani's global artistic director and is the new member of the L'Oreal Professionnel color artistic team. So let's get into this week's head case, and I know you're going to love her and hear her talk as much as I did, so please give it up for Tippi Shorter Rank. Tippi, it has been forever and a day. We have never really had a chance to get together and have an in-depth conversation, and I've been craving this moment. So first, I just want to say, I'm so damn pleased to have you on here. And I'm just really super excited about this, and I can't say enough. Welcome to Headcases, and thank you for giving up your time for being on here.
Thank you so much for having me. Same. I've been wanting to be a part of this program with you for quite some time now, and I know we've had to reschedule a few times, life of a hairdresser and an entrepreneur, but today's the day, and we are here, so I'm so excited.
Check, and here we go.
Yes.
And you know what? I start with the hair. I always want people to know contextually, like our backgrounds, why and how do we get into the business. So I want to start a little bit differently with you because, if anybody doesn't know your pedigree of what you do in celebrity, and I know there's a lot we can get into this because you were in it and out of it and back into it again. That was the weirdest lead in that I've ever done for anything in my life. But I just want to start with that is that, when you have, and you dress the hair for people and like, Alicia Keys and having Jennifer Hudson, Lady Gaga and those type, I think that most people would be scared to death to even talk to them, much less doing their hair and have the responsibility like that. So first off, what's it like?
Well, they are just people. I will add that. And but the first few times of meeting any of these celebrities that I've had the amazing pleasure to work with, there was a great sense of butterflies, particularly if I'm a huge fan, and I've been so super lucky that the clients that I have worked with, I am also fans of. So I get to truly enjoy getting to know them, being around them, help, making them hair heroes, or hair goals, in the Insta world and social media. So it's just been really fantastic for me. I will say there was one young lady that I worked with her solidly for about 5 years. And every time I saw her, it was like the very first time. And she goes by Queen Bee, if you know who she is.
Oh, I know exactly who you're talking about.
So I didn't work with her as frequently in terms of, every week, every month. And so I maintained her hair. And as a result, whenever I saw her, it was almost like the first time every time. But, working with clients like Alicia Keys, I worked with her almost every other day over the course of 12 years. So, we became almost like family. And but it is, I just worked with Jennifer Hudson actually 4 days ago, and I haven't seen her. She's amazing. And I hadn't seen her since her TV show. So it's been that long since I've seen her. And literally, the really wonderful thing is that I was getting butterflies prior to her arrival. But the moment she walked in, there was literally like no time was lost, which,
Yeah.
you know, lets you know how genuine of a person she is
Yeah.
and what type of genuine relationship we had together. And it's just, you know, what the celebrities look for is someone who is talented and professional and someone that they can truly build a relationship, because at the end of the day we are in their personal space, we're around their friends, we're around their family, we're sometimes in their homes, you know, and so they're just really looking for someone that they can add to their network of family, professional family.
Yeah, thank you. You know, and I'm going to doing one step to the side because you just got finished a while back doing a video for the hairdressing industry, particularly for students and even more so for the parents of kids going into a school. And let's face it, it's not rocket science to figure out that there's people in our industry that make incredible money, and yet because of a few, parents think that our industry is not worthy, and they want them to go
Yeah.
into another field of whatever that might be because they feel like they're on an elevated socially, stature, finance, emotionally, relationships, etc. And yet, this is such an amazing industry, and people dream of doing session work, which you've done. I was looking through your portfolio on your website, and it's freaking awesome. I mean, the work that you do is unbelievable as a session stylist, but you get to be a, it's just not fair. You get to be a session stylist, you do celebrity hair, you do normal hair, and you're just an honor, you know, all around perfect hairdresser. Now
Well,
I'm going
thank
to take
you.
that word back because
Yeah,
I've been
I was gonna say
talked out of.
I was gonna cut you off and say I'm just an all around cool girl.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go. But so what, like how, if some kid that's just starting in the business or they've been around for a while and then they thinking, I just want to do that. How do they, well, like, what would you say to people? What, how do they get into the business? What do they all have to do? And I'm sure it's changed, but what would you tell them?
So when you say get into the business, are you speaking specifically about celebrity?
Celebrity, yes.
Okay. So assist. That's the first thing is if there are people that you know that are already working with celebrity, the best thing you can do is offer up your time to assist. If you don't know anyone who is in that space, do your research. Do your research. Find out who your favorite celebs are. Find out who your hair heroes are, and find out who does their hair. Follow them, DM them, and let them know, hey, I'm
Yeah.
available. I'm in this city. If you ever need someone to just hold hairpins for you.
Yes.
So that's the way to go is by assisting. There are so many assistants that I had personally that have gone on to have amazing careers, get picked up by, you know, top agencies and do top celebrities. So, and that kind of happens because, you know, if I have an assistant, for example, who shows up with me to a job and continues to show up with me to the job, one time maybe I'm not available, but my client is so familiar and comfortable with my assistant that they'll give my assistant a shot.
Yeah.
And if that works, now that's on their resume. And then, you know, and then maybe that's someone who potentially could be their, you know, become their new client. And so things like that. There is another opportunity if you can't connect directly with the hairstylist, is contact agencies. And you know, the agencies primarily exist in the main markets. Main market meaning Los Angeles, New York, Miami, Atlanta,
Football
Chicago.
cities.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but however, you know, I for example have lived in Kansas City for the last 11 years, and not that I'm getting bookings here because, you know, I have my history and my relationships from living both in New York and in Los Angeles. But um, here in a market like this, there are tons of modeling and acting agencies. And
Yeah.
those agencies tend to also represent hair and makeup. So if they are booking models, they'll also try to book their hair and makeup teams as well. So definitely reach out to your local modeling agencies to see if you can be represented by them or even assist their artists that they're representing just to get your foot in the door and build a portfolio.
Yes. And I think that's it. Excuse me. I always call it, building your chops. You've got
Hmm.
to get, excuse me, you've got to get, start somewhere, even if it's editorial to get, learn that editorial hair is different than salon hair. And
100%.
yes, you're going to use techniques, and they say, "What you mean? You don't use blow dryers, etc." No, it's really a different beast. And to learn, the word I wrote down there that I loved where you were going. I don't think it was your word, but when you were talking about building up relationships, so
Hmm.
the more that you can, like if I said to you, "Hey, can I come and hold pins for you?" I'm starting to build up a relationship, and
Right.
then the person that you're doing, like you said, they build up a relationship. They know you. They know that they
Absolutely.
can trust you. And I think especially when I'm only guessing, Alicia Keys is not going to just say, "Hey, that's hairstylist across the street, whatever. They got a good name. They don't." It could mean something disastrous for a picture if they don't pick the right person.
Absolutely. Exactly. And so when you're talking about like A-list celebrities, like someone like Alicia Keys, they're not really looking for referrals. They have managers and they've got publicists who work with agencies and they send in portfolios and they kind of do like little interviews. So they're looking at top tier talent. And but the opportunity will come as if that top tier talent hairstylist has and a team of assistants, and that's how you're able to get your foot in the
Yeah.
door in that space. And that's actually a really great story. So I never went on an official tour with Alicia Keys because by the time I was working with her, I was married, I had a daughter, and I told my family I would never leave for more than 2 weeks at a time. So, when you're on a tour, you're talking months at a time. So
Yeah.
I actually had an assistant who would show up with me occasionally for Alicia's jobs. And when she went on tour, I brought my assistant on tour with me for that 2 weeks. And then my assistant stayed on tour with her for 2 months.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's not something that would have happened, if it wasn't someone who had been in the space and had been comfortable with me. So that's really probably the fastest and easiest way to get your foot in the door is to really put your head down, do the work, find the artist that, inspires you. And when I say artist, I don't mean celebrity artists. I mean hair
Yeah.
artists that
Yep.
inspires you and, offer your time, and a lot of it's unpaid, by the way, because sometimes
Yeah.
the assistant jobs are unpaid. But if this is something you truly want to do, this is doing your due diligence, kind of putting in your sweat equity, if you will. And, a lot of times the payoffs are really, really big.
Yeah, and to that point, even if you're looking at this celebrity stylist world, it works. If you're looking at excuse me, if you're looking at getting into fashion week, that works.
Yep,
If you're looking into becoming an artist for a manufacturer, that works. So it's
exactly.
all about you. You may have to do some things like you might make X amount of dollars in the salon doing hair every day, and you might not make that at the beginning, but it gives you the inroad. And I think that kind of it's exactly that. We just talked about the celebrity status. You've got your own salon. You do all of these things. I want to jump back to the beginning. Like people ask me, well, did you always want to be a hairdresser? And I said that there's two kinds of people. There's ones that always knew that they were going to be hairdressers, and the ones that fell into it. Which one were you?
The second, the latter.
Yeah, that was me.
Uh, yeah. So I grew up in Southern California, and I love sharing this part. I grew up in Southern California. I'm from Long Beach, and if anyone knows
Mm,
who is from Long Beach, Cameron Diaz, Snoop Dogg, and so yes, I knew them, and so love to throw my little LBC in there.
love it.
But
Love
while
it.
growing up, I was always involved in the creative arts. So I was in singing groups, I was in dancing groups, and things like that. And not a very good singer, by the way. Let me just add, I was in the group. I could hold a harmony, and but what I did do was I always made sure that I was the one who coordinated what we looked like, meaning from like head to toe, what we were doing with our hair, our makeup, what we were wearing, and that's just something I loved to do. So I didn't even think of it as a job or a career or anything that could go beyond the singing group. And after graduating high school, I did a semester of college, and I just told my mom, like, this is not working. I don't know. It's just, I need to, this is not what I want to do. I need to figure out what I want to do. And one of my girlfriends said, hey, Tippy, I always noticed that in your singing groups, this is what you gravitated towards. Why don't you think of, why don't you consider going into the beauty industry? But it didn't even dawn on me that that could be a career for me. Now, let me back up and say I've always had a ton of hair, and I have been a hairstylist client.
No.
I've been a hair salon client since I was like 5. My mother and I would go to the salon every 2 weeks, and that's what we would spend an entire Saturday in a salon. So I knew the salon experience, but I guess I didn't think of myself in that space. Um, just to see myself in that space. And when she, broached the idea to me of falling into the beauty industry, by this time I had learned um, that celebrities had hairstylists. I didn't even think about that. Of course, celebrities have hairstylists. And so since I was so in tune to the entertainment industry, and that was a space that I saw myself spending a lot of time in, I thought it was going to be as a performer, but as it turns out, it was on the backside of things, and behind the scenes in the beauty space. So yeah, I ended up going to beauty school, and I had a job waiting for me right out of beauty school from this incredibly talented woman named Jamaica Wilson.
Uh,
By the way, shout out to Jamaica. She is the first woman of color to have won an Oscar. She won it a few years back for Woman King. So she is the hairstylist to Viola Davis. So that was my very first boss outside of beauty school. And she also worked in the entertainment industry at that time, doing music videos for groups and singers and performers and such. So I really kind of got my first start right as an assistant because I was her assistant. And, but I had my first opportunity to be on music video sets and photo shoot sets and get like a real taste of it without having the responsibility of being, the main hairstylist. So I got to learn that this is an environment I really love, and I crave to be a hairstylist like this. This is the way I see myself being a hairstylist. So that was the trajectory that I set myself on. And from there, I lived in California for 2 additional years, still assisting Jamaica. And then I had an opportunity to move to New York. So I moved to New York. And so I think at this time I was about 20, moved to New York City
was 4 years
and got
ago.
right, exactly. and and I got my first job, which is funny because this is a totally separate scenario. But my very first job in New York City, I found in the Village Voice. And for those of you New Yorkers,
I,
you know what that is or
yep,
was. And
yep.
it was working for a woman who had just written a book about curly hair, and she was starting to create a huge curl company. And I was her assistant for a year.
Hold on, what was her
And
name?
her name is Lorraine Massey.
You know what? I think I met
You know who
her.
that is. Okay.
I do.
Okay. So Lorraine Massey is the originator of all things Diva, Diva Curl, Diva
Yep.
Cut, Diva Products, Diva
Uh
Sean,
huh.
all the stuff. But at the time, she didn't have any products. So we're talking like mid 90s. She didn't have her huge brand, but she was starting to write her book, The Curly, I forget what the book was called.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was my very first job. And I assisted her while I was beating the pavement, trying to find myself an agent. And trying to connect with other hairstylists, makeup artists, stylists, photographers to start building a portfolio because, again, that was the space I knew I wanted to work in. And so eventually, uh, I ended up meeting this woman just randomly on the street. And the funny thing about this is that I am quite the introvert, so I'm not really good at like passing up business cards and speaking to people I don't know. And I just saw this woman and I said, you know what? She's gorgeous. She's walking down New York City. She's walking down Park Avenue, and she's got these beautiful golden labs. And she had this, really silly bun in her hair. I was like, she's so fabulous to have this really silly bun in her hair. And I gave her a card and I told her exactly that. I was like, you're too fabulous for your hair. Like, your hair needs to be as fabulous as you. And she told me, well, I don't need your card because I represent hairstylists. And I had heard the term agent, but I didn't really know what that was.
Yeah.
So she was like, I represent hairstylists. And I was like, okay, explain more. And so she asked me to bring my portfolio to her, and I did. And that was my very first agent. She took me on. I didn't really have a solid portfolio. I really just had a few Polaroid pictures to be, if I want to be perfectly honest. And she took a chance on me. And 2 weeks later, I was doing my very first music video.
No way. You know, it's funny.
And that was, I'm saying, by the way, and that was because I finally decided to open my mouth, because typically I would not have.
Yes. You know, but think about that. It always reminds me, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Sliding Doors, where
No.
it was, well, you go back and see it because it's really interesting on how the whole movie is based on the premise. I don't know if it was that great that you want to go back and watch it again now, but
Okay.
it was Sliding Doors just meant in New York, on a subway, the door opens, the girl walks in, and then they show her like her life. And
Hmm.
then they show the same thing where she misses the door
Ah,
closes, doesn't get on the train, and then it's interspersed back and forth with those two stories of how one person gets successful and the one that missed the door or other way
yeah.
around didn't. I don't remember which one was which, but I always
Wow.
think of that when I hear stories like you just told us. If
Mm.
you, as an introvert, hi, my name is Chris, and I'm an introvert.
Yeah.
I think hi, Chris. I think we all go through that. And it's funny, Tippi, how the more that I get on this and interview amazing people like you, that so many are introverts,
Yeah.
and it's really, they see you on stage all the time and they think, oh my God, she's got to be gregarious and an extrovert and the social butterfly and all that. So
No,
true or not
no, not at
true?
all. Not true.
Yeah.
So I've learned, as an educator, ways to connect to people. And also, let me add, growing up, being a performer was always something I wanted to do. So this is my opportunity to utilize that performance energy into my education. And so that's how
Yeah.
I channel that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that, like, for people that are watching and listening, if you get the tones here, how somebody that was an introvert, like the sliding door, you have to sometimes get out of your own damned way
Yeah.
and make an entrance, pass out a card, talk to somebody, and so on. And I'm so guilty of that because I'm just so introverted that when it comes to trying to meet people, I always think, well, you won't know who the hell I am. That you're going to reject me, and all those little voice
Yeah.
crap that's
Yeah.
going on. And then you do it anyway, and none of that comes true. None of it
Right.
really comes true. So, little sidebar. Can I ask you a question? I don't know if you'll give me the answer to it.
Sure.
I've listened to you many, many times, and I've heard you tell that your real name is not Tippi. I mean, your
Hmm.
born name is
Correct.
not Tippi. So,
Correct.
two-part question. Number one would be, how did you get the name Tippi? And number two, what is your name that you don't use?
So it's so funny. I remember being on tour with someone and they used my government name because of legal documents.
Yeah.
And someone was like, "Who's that? Oh, Tippy's not coming." I'm like, "That's me." So no,
Oh,
not sharing the government name. My mom, while in utero, she said I used to I would kick her and poke her, and so she was like, "Look at her tippy toes, tippy toe." So she would call me Tippy Toe,
got it.
and so I don't know how it just dropped to Tippy, but before I was born, she and my dad were talking, and she's like, "I want to name her Tippy because this is what, I've been calling her for the last however many months." And he's like, "No, that's stupid. We're going to name her
Oh,
this." And so the other name is what they ended up naming me, like, legally. However, let me add, my dad has never called me anything but Tippy since I can remember. No one in my family has ever called me anything but Tippi. In fact, I don't think I ever knew what my real name was until I officially had to like write it on something like in school.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that Tippi's my name since forever,
Yeah. You've had
literally.
that name before you had your government name.
I had that name before I had the other name.
Well,
Yeah, so
no, I
it is my
tried.
name.
You've got to give me, I tried. I get
You
an A for
try.
effort on that one. Because you
You
say that's not
did.
my real name. The first thought is, well, then what the hell is it? Why? No, it's like this
I
suspense
know.
moment.
I know. Everyone asks, well, it does begin with a T. And so that's all you're
Tippy.
going to get from me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tippy. Yeah.
Tippy. Yeah. So again, once again, moms win out, ladies win
Yeah.
out. This is the name. It's dad goes, no, it's
She
this.
knew.
Moms,
Exactly.
moms win. That's awesome.
Exactly.
Um, so on, I always love like of me. I started on the show circuit in 1980 something. I can't even remember the year. I think it
Oh,
was actually no. I started. It would have been show circuit. I started on in 1978,
wow.
and so, but everything was a lot different than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
When you travel, and I remembered that we would always go it's going back to what it was before. Like, for those of people that are not familiar with it, when you become a manufacturer artist, at one time, before when we first started off, all the manufacturers knew each other as a hairdresser, and you're
Yeah.
just a hairdresser, and you guys knew one another. We hung around together before the shows. You'd be in the bar. Oh, did I say bar? I meant coffee shop. Um, and, and, and
We
you
knew
would
where you
just
were,
have,
Chris.
yeah, I don't have this red nose here for nothing. So you'd be in the bar and you'd just share war stories, or you'd share pranks, or you'd share silly stories that happened in it. And then I'm going to jump over the era where then it became you were with this manufacturer, so you better not talk to that person, and so
Mm,
on, because there was this rivalry and so on. And I think that we're really getting back to hairdressers. I always like what Sam Villa says:
being
hairdressers
connected.
helping hairdressers,
Yeah.
connecting with hairdressers. And I think we're getting back to that very much now. Is there either when you, as an educator, or as a celebrity stylist, funny stories, or do you guys pull pranks and thing on when they're on sets or whatever?
Can't say pranks. And let me just say, in the celebrity space, you don't really see or connect with other hairstylists because on the job, there's only one hairstylist and there's one
Yeah,
makeup artist. So you do know other hairstylists, but a lot of times you're kind of in competition with those other
right.
hairstylists
Yeah, yeah,
because everyone's kind of vying to have that same client, you know?
right.
And if your celebrity client has multiple hairstylists, then, again, you're kind of competing with that hairstylist. So,
Mm-hmm.
no, so you're not really connected unless you were friends to begin with, So
Yeah,
that's really kind of the only way you stay connected in the celebrity space. However, I will say in the last maybe like 5 years or so, I think a lot of hairdressers and makeup artists got over the idea that that's my client, because I think
right.
like when I first started, there was a lot of, well, my client, my client, my client. And then a very wise makeup artist, an incredible makeup artist named Sam Fine, said, they're not your client. They spend their money with whoever they want to spend with whenever they want to do it. So today they're your client.
Right.
Tomorrow they might be someone else's client. And I'm like, that's so profound, and you are 100% right. And from that point, it really changed my perspective on what I thought about the people I worked with. Stop calling them technically my clients, but they are celebrities that I had the opportunity to work with at that time. If they
Yeah,
continue to call me, amazing. If they don't, it was fun, you know? So to that point, I feel like a lot of hairdressers maybe kind of had their own pivotal moments, and we started to unite a bit more.
yeah.
And let me just say, I've had a celebrity client who almost kind of pitted one of us against the other. And that was really childish and silly and stupid, and, kind of played into, oh, well, get this right, or I'm gonna have to call such and such. And I'm like, why would you say that? Like,
Yeah.
that's a really weird thing as, as a client. Cause I'm
Yeah.
just thinking in a salon scenario, if a client is sitting in your chair, I don't think they would say, get my cut right, or I'm gonna have to go sit in someone else's chair,
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little silly games sometimes and not to say all celebrities do that, obviously, but there was
No.
that was a real life scenario for me.
Yeah. That sounds a little passive aggressive
Yeah.
on that part, without controlling. But was
Yeah, absolutely.
there any funny things that happened with, like, instances that happened with the celebrity and you that are laughable now, or playing a joke on one another, or interesting stories, silly things that came up?
I don't know if interesting jokes, and I don't know, but what I can say, and probably back to my introvert self, and the
Okay.
fact that I did not ever take the liberty to become friends really with my
Ah,
clients. We have really great relationships, like a salon client would with their
yep.
stylist, but I've had clients who wanted to be my friends, and early on in my industry, or early on in my career, I did become really good friends with a few of my clients. And then when those clients decided to move on to another hairstylist, it hurt. It was like a
Yeah, it's
relationship. It
hard.
was like a real
Yeah.
breakup. So from
Yep.
that point, I really kind of just put we're not doing that. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not going through this hurt anymore. So it's a business relationship. I'm going to show up. I'm going to do my job. I'm going to be professional. I'm going to, be cordial. I'll, if you're inviting the entire team to dinner, I'll go to dinner. But if you just want to hang out with me, I don't want to do that, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't have any of those types of stories because I did decide to keep it really professional. And I've had two clients tell me, kind of when I told them I was going to, move into education and really kind of stop doing this type of work full time, they both told me, what I really appreciate you, Tippi, is that you are such a consummate professional. Like you, and what the celebrity told me is, you never really wanted to hang out. I didn't feel like you were trying to like befriend me and trying to do these things. And I was like, no, and I'm glad you didn't do the same for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad we had this relationship because now we can have this conversation. And I think that's why moving forward, 5, 10 years later, I can see this person and it's still such a really great relationship,
Yeah.
you know?
There's a lesson inside there. There's always these lessons that happen, and sometimes you got to think a little bit deeper and go beyond the first degree of that. So I would just throw that back right to so many salon owners they want to think of their employees, the people that are working
Hmm.
around them, their team. And I'm not saying that you can't be friendly with people, but I am saying, and what my advice is to people, is that they're not your friends. Is that the more you just become friends with your employees, that's when people get so hurt, when people
Yeah.
want to leave and do the same thing that they did, I did, you did,
Yeah. Yeah.
worked for somebody, and you're building your career, you're moving up the ladder, so you're going to
Exactly.
move. And I think that's where the lesson is, and what you were talking about is, in that instance, you said, I don't like the hurt that goes along with this. So, and then they do two things. First thing that happens is, if somebody wants to leave, then they get upset. They're no longer their
Hmm.
friends. How could you hurt me like that? You
Right.
know, and then I think
Exactly.
even from a client perspective, the client's your friend, and then you're not charging them appropriately.
And so that's the other line, is that it becomes very gray. And,
Yeah,
and so the clients that I did become friends with, it was like, hey, I'm going to this party. You want to come? Sure. Well, can you just throw my hair in a quick ponytail? And I'm like, well, hold on. Are you hiring me, or am I like, what am I,
yeah,
what are we
yeah,
doing? you
yeah,
know? And so then, not to say, that happened. So, but I did feel at one point that maybe a lot of my generosity was also being taken advantage of. So
yeah,
I just, but again, I was young, getting into the industry, and I was being asked to, hang out with these people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that. But then I learned, okay, well, if everyone's not going, then I guess maybe I don't need to go either. But if everyone's going, then
yeah,
I'll go.
yeah.
And yeah, so I just had to cut the friendship part of it off, and we
Good.
can have a very cordial business relationship.
I bet we have something in common. I have this love-hate relationship. I hate paying for something that I'm not using. I hate working in a small, cramped box. Yet, I love working in a cool salon that impresses my clients, and I love the culture and synergy of a team while enjoying the freedom of being my own boss. You too? What if all that was available to you at the salon you rent from? Meet Artist on Go, a game-changing way to rent salon space. With Artist on Go, you only pay for the time you're behind the chair. You can choose a salon that fits your vibe, location, and amenities. With Artist on Go, you're a part of a stylist community, not hustling alone. Plus, you get to enjoy perks like clean towels and back bar supplies. Check out Artist on Go, built for stylists serious about their clients and growing their brand without the hassles of managing a space. Here's the kicker. You can save more than 50% on your rent. To find out more, go to bit.ly/artistongocb. That's bit.ly/artistongocb. Yeah, and it's interesting on when you have those kind of relationships with people, etc. But I want to just jump back into a little bit about on the hair side, and I'm gonna guess this will be kind of a mixed in question because I think there's this, like I talked about hairdressers and how from manufacturers and they didn't get along. And there's this time in our industry was hairdressers, black hairdressers and hairdressers that did white hair were separated, right?
Still
And
are.
it still are
greatly.
yeah. And so I'd like you to speak to that, like just on this thing, because I know that you were involved in helping L'Oreal get into Congress so that they were passing things about how how coily, curly hair has to be taught in schools as well and in salons.
Yeah.
So can you talk to that point?
Sure.
Literally about how do we get our industry so it's not black hair, it's not white hair, it's not gray, yellow, brown hair, whatever. It's just hair.
Yeah.
Talk to that.
So the verbiage is probably the first part of it, So notoriously, just like churches, because the churches are quite segregated as well. Obviously, there are quite a few churches, particularly mega churches, that are multicultural, and there are salons that are multicultural. But the reason, in my opinion, that salons were segregated, is because of the education and or lack of education. And goes on both fronts, and I'm going to say this, and this is one of the really big pushes for texture change, because I have gotten kickback on some classes like, Tippi, why are you teaching white stylists how to work on curly hair? I said, in beauty school, as a Black woman, I actually did not learn how to work on white hair, because every time a client would walk into the salon who was a person of color, they were always sent to me. So I never got the experience and the practice on hair that wasn't like mine. And same thing for my counterpart, a friend who is a white woman, who every time a client would walk in who had hair similar to her, she would get that client. So I'm always getting clients that look like me, and she's always getting clients that look like her. So when you go into salons, you go to the salon of the clients that you're familiar working with, and so that's exactly what happens. And so, with texture change, it's really not about teaching a person with not textured hair to work on textured hair. It's making sure that the person without textured hair knows how to also work on textured hair. So when people come into the schools to get their hair done, it's divided evenly. The person with the curly hair, the stylist with the curly hair can learn how to work on the person with straight hair, and the person with the straight hair can learn how to work on the person with the curly hair. It's not just about teaching one group of people something. It's about teaching everybody everything, so everybody can do everything. And that's really what that's about. And then the more comfortable stylist, Black, white, Latin, like all the, all the shades, become familiar and comfortable working on all hair textures, then the places they choose to work then become more diverse. The salons themselves become more diverse, but because there hasn't been education, you're just gravitating to what you're familiar with and what you know. And that really truly stems from, the school experience. And the school experience is like, by the way, because I am a Black woman did not mean I knew how to work on Black hair. Let's be super clear.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
also the term Black hair, white hair, that's silly because I'm a Black woman. However, my hair is very similar to women who are Polynesian.
yeah,
So I've got friends who are white women who have hair that are very similar to mine. So it's not about she's a white girl, she's got white hair. No, it's about texture and
yeah,
what type of texture do you have. So it's really not about white and Black and all of that type of stuff. As we move forward and really try to like uplift and redirect this narrative and the verbiage.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's so. What came to my mind. I'm getting at that age where I'm visiting doctors a little bit more than I was way back when.
Uh-huh. Same.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, however, but if you look at the field of doctors, is they have to generalize first and know everything. They have to know about the body. They have to know about all different areas of it, and then they specialize.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas all of us from like I'm from that baby boomer era, your specialty was based on just what you did, just like we're just talking about.
Yeah.
But imagine our industry, especially, I think, if people knew the difference in potential revenue dealing with a textured market versus just dealing with somebody with straight and wavy hair, etc. Is that there's so much more money to be made in the services. And every time I see somebody that has coily hair, they're willing to spend anything on their hair, buy the products that you recommend, etc. So I think if people
Well,
just saw the potential.
let me add this. The reason why that's the case is because of the lack of education in the
Yeah,
beauty space. The more education, so if you're in a town and there's 30 hair salons, but only one hair salon knows how to work on texture, that hair salon can charge whatever they want, right?
exactly. Yeah,
However, the goal is to not have to price gouge women and men with textured hair because no one has the education. The
right.
goal is to make sure that the woman with curly hair does not have to spend more than the woman with straight hair. Now, granted, if you and I go to the salon, I definitely should be charged more. And I definitely, it's going to take more time because I've got more hair than you. But I shouldn't be charged more just because I have curly hair, right? I should be
Right.
charged more because the amount of time that's going to take is
Bingo.
going to be because my
Bingo.
hair's thicker, my hair's denser. By the way, if my hair were naturally straight, it would still be thick. It still would be dense. In that instance, I would still be charged more, right? But
Yeah,
we've got
yeah,
women with textured hair who've got shorter hair, who've got fine hair, and who should not be charged more just because the stylist doesn't know how to work on their hair.
yeah,
So all
yeah,
I'm saying is that, yes, I agree with you in terms of the earning potential, but it's a kind of an unfair scenario. And that's because there aren't enough stylists to make the pricing more fair, right? So if you
right.
think about those same 30 salons that I was just speaking about in a town, if 30 of them all specialized in balayage, there couldn't be one salon that could hike up their prices because there's competition,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so we want to make sure that textured hair has those same options so that women with curly hair feel comfortable going to a salon and not feeling like there's, going to have to be price gouged as a result.
yeah.
So
And
so yes to what you're saying, there are amazing earning potentials, but it's what the earning potential is just for the sake of getting a whole new group of clients,
yeah,
not because um not because you can charge this client more. It's just now you're opening up your world to 65% more clients than you did before.
yeah. And so thank you for that. because what I was basing mine on, those figures on, was I saw a figure, and it was a few years back, but they said that the market for textured hair was at that time, I don't believe I'm making this up. It was
Billion.
$7 billion.
Yeah. Yeah.
$7 billion, and that's what I was marking on. And what I love that you said, that the equalizer in there is a four-letter word: time. You
Hmm.
said it. It's time. It's just like if I walk in and I'm saying, look, it takes my hair and my appointment time is 30 minutes. Then that slot should be based on how much your revenue you're going to create within that 30 minutes, and that's the amount you charge for that 30 minutes. And
Hmm.
if your rank is higher, maybe you can put that up based on experience, etc. But it's, excuse me, exactly, regardless of who you are, if you come in and you're one 30-minute slot, then your price is this. If it's
Right.
four 30-minute slots, then it's four times that.
That exactly.
Yeah,
And so to that point, two things for that. Um, that's why education is important, because what's happening as I'm going around and I'm teaching, um, the air cut, which is a curly cutting technique that I created, or just, basic curly techniques, because you're unfamiliar with it and it's brand new to you, it's going to take you longer,
of
right?
course.
So, but as a result, that client's going to end up having to pay more time anyway, but that's just because of the lack of education. So once again,
Yeah,
the client is being price gouged, if you will. And the other part of that is, yeah, more product, more time, more dollar signs added to that bill. And but all things being equal, the stylists have to work efficiently and know what they're doing. They can't, just like, oh, I just learned yesterday, so it's going to take me 5 hours to do, a 20-30 minute service.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a tricky scenario. And, hopefully, we're definitely not in a place where it's all things being equal. But hopefully we'll be getting there soon.
Yeah. Do you, and I mean, I agree with you 100% that education is the thing that will set you free.
Yeah.
I've heard some people say knowledge will set you free. I don't believe that. Application sets you free. And you can have all the
Application.
knowledge,
Yeah. But
you
if
can
you
have
don't do
all the
anything about
knowledge
it,
you want, but like you said, whether you're learning coily hair, straight hair, whether you're learning to ride a bike, whether you're learning how to write with a pen, it takes more time at the beginning, and you have to charge accordingly. Not, I mean, I don't mean that I'm learning how to do this the first time, therefore it takes me four times longer. There are times I charge for them. I have to
right.
charge my level that I'm at. And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's where all this comes from. So that really jumps into my kind of the next phase of what I have. And it might not even be a fair one. How long do you think that it's going to take us generation wise to equalize this?
Well, let me just say this. I'm so ecstatic that brands are really looking at this seriously and
Hmm.
are finally doing the legwork that they gave lip service to 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I say that because, there have been brands that have been around for quite some time that, oh yeah, I have a curly product, and we service all clients because I've got a curly product. Well, that doesn't work. We all
Right.
know that one product doesn't fit all, and that's the case for straight hair also, right?
Yep.
So, um legislation is being passed, and it's slow going, but at least it's going. So I I'd love to say by the end of 2026, all states will be on board. But then here's the other part. It's just legislation being passed. Now the schools actually have to have a curriculum that they're
Yep.
teaching. So I don't know if the texture is delivered to these schools. I'm not really sure on that end. I'm kind of just on one side of that. I'm not on the back end of that. Now for the
Yeah.
stylist, that are actively, in salon now, I've been so wonderfully surprised at all the stylists of all different backgrounds, all shades, all creeds, that are coming to texture classes and really wanting to learn, and who have been hairdressers for, 1 year up to 30 years. And they just really want, something, they want to make sure that they are hair stylist, meaning they
Yeah.
do all hair. And that's kind of one of the things I say. In order to be a hair stylist, you have to know how to do all hair. You can't be I'm just some of the hairstylist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that on your business card? Hi, my name is Tippi and I'm a some of the
Some of the hairstylists.
hairstylist.
I can do your hair, but not yours.
Yeah, yeah.
What I like about this, Tippy, is if we could just get all the hairdressing industry to up their curiosity game and lower their fear game. I don't know if I'm saying that right,
Mm,
but when it comes to, they're
yeah.
just terrified that they might make a mistake if I've got a coily haired client coming in and I don't know how to do it. Or so they may pass the client on, or they just try their very best, or whatever. But I think if people would just be curious and then go to a class, because
Hmm.
that'll help to solve your fear side. Because like we just said, that knowledge is fear. You get the knowledge, you'll get some of the application, and especially if you're doing it as well as learning it. But then you have to apply it when you get out. Otherwise, it's just
Yeah.
information gone.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me say, there's many reasons why a person does. First of all, everyone's not a lifelong learner.
Yep.
There are so many people that are like, "Oh, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm making a lot of money. Why do I need to change?" Okay,
Yep.
I'm doing what I'm doing. Why do I need to learn anything else? I don't have room in my books for anything else. There's so many ideas or perspectives or thoughts behind why a person doesn't want to learn. But when you stop learning, you stop growing, and
Hmm.
you stop evolving, because hair trends change. And not to say texture is a trend, I just mean, you know, there are, maybe the new trend is, everybody now wants to be curly again.
Yep.
So
Yep.
people with straight hair want perms again, which, by the way, that is happening. So
That was, damn it,
um,
you're giving me all these segues.
yeah, that's happening. So my salon, called Hair Love, here in Kansas City, we are curl specialists. So we primarily work with people who've already got a form of texture, waves, curls, and coils. However, you would be surprised at the amount of calls and emails we get for people with straight hair who want us to give them curl.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's not a service that we offer yet, and we're really kind of like debating if that is something we want to do, because I love, obviously, taking care of texture. So yeah, it might be a service that we end up adding, but yeah, it's here. So
Yep.
are you not going to, you know do that if your client asks? What happens? You
Yep.
just pass the client on, and if it's already a client that you're already doing. So I do understand, to your previous point, getting someone curious in order to, making more money makes anybody curious, right? But I
Yep.
just want to make sure the stylist is clear on, you're making more money not because you're necessarily charging the client more. You're making more money because you're now opening up the field for additional clients,
Yes.
period.
Yeah. 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 And I always call them, whenever you're doing something that the ones that you do a head of hair and then you look back at the day and that's the one you remember. I remember, and that's the one you would get around at the dinner table. Oh man, you should have seen this head of hair that I did today. Not from an
Yeah.
ego, not from look at how my being big. It's just being proud, And I think
Yeah.
when you can master something like that, and then talk about it in the back room, talk about it in your friends, be so excited about it that you want to tell somebody about
Yeah.
the great things that you did that day. And I look forward to our industry when this great divide that we have in that. As I'm glad that it's getting narrower, but it would be just nice if it was leveled.
Yeah.
Everything was the same.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so you've got the stylist part of that. But then there's also the client part, right? So you got the client. So my salon is a diverse salon, and we've got women who will sit in the chair, women who maybe look like me, who will sit in a chair of a woman who doesn't look like me. And they're like, can you do my hair? You know, I'm like, they're in the salon. So
Yeah.
100%. So then now you've also have the fear and the anxiety of the client as well. So I think it's, you know, it's going to take time. It's going to take
That's
time.
it. Yeah, and it's not going to happen immediately. And like even we talked about, if you get it into the schools generationally, that generation is going to be more receptive to it. And then it's just like an attrition. The more generation, then the next generation comes in, the next
Absolutely.
generation in, and that's the equalizer. And I think that I love by 2026 we can get something in there. But I think it's going to take a few generations of hairdressers before it really starts to equalize. But we'll be making headway on that.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree.
Tippi, I don't know where the hell time goes. We talked about how you have celebrity friends, relationships, family people that come in, and it's like you haven't seen them for a year, and then it's just like you're right back in here. And I'm looking at the time going. I think we just did introduction, so it's been amazing, and I just want to jump into our rapid fire, and so just I'm going to throw stuff out at you.
Let's go.
And just first thing that comes to your brain, nice, quick, short answers. And if you don't like them, say pass.
All right.
I look at your work that you've done, and I challenge everybody to go onto Tippi's website and just look at not only the beautiful hair, but the faces underneath there that you will recognize. So I challenge you on that, but I see you as hugely a creative person. So what turns you on in the creative process?
Transformation.
Mm-hmm. And what stifles creativity?
Ego.
Things in life that you love the most.
Joy.
And the thing in life that you dislike the most.
Conflict.
Things that you love the most about our industry.
The unlimited potential.
And the things you dislike most about our industry.
I hope I say this clearly, but the bastardizing, is that a word?
Mm-hmm. That is a word.
Yeah, of the industry. And I'm going to probably take a little bit of time of this, but there's
That's
so
okay.
many states I feel that are unregulated or undoing the license process. And so there's a lot of non-professional professional hairdressers, and they're creating all these rules. And so now there's this big, you know, should I come to the salon? Why are they asking me to not shampoo my hair? I'm like, what salon is asking that? Oh, no. The girl that works from her house. Okay. Well, then different
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah.
different hairdresser, you know, so I say the bastardizing of our industry.
Yeah. Person that you wish you could meet.
Living.
Anybody.
I'll go with living, and I'll say Michelle Obama.
Oh, wow. Me too. I'll hear something that people don't know about you.
There's quite a few things. Can I give you a couple?
Yeah.
I don't know if people don't know this about me, because I feel like I've said these a few times before. I used to dance on Soul Train.
No way.
Yeah. I am on a unreleased and then re-released after he died album. I'm on a Tupac song. So it was unreleased, but when a person passes, they release all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah. And the last thing is I went to School of Visual Arts Photography. So I'm very passionate about photography
Well,
and videography.
now I see why in your photographs. A month off. I'm granting you a month off. Where would you go? What would you do?
Fun fact, I'm about to take a month off. My
No
daughter just
way.
graduated high school. Yeah.
And where are you
we
going?
So we just sold our home.
Yeah,
And we have had a motorhome for 3 years, and we're going to be traveling around the country in our motorhome.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. A thing that terrifies you.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna have to come back to that.
Okay.
I can't think of something right off the bat.
Well, I'll give you another easy one. Your favorite curse word.
Shit.
Favorite comfort food.
Chunky monkey ice cream, Ben and Jerry's.
Oh. Something I don't know even if this was possible, but something in the industry that you haven't done, but you want to.
I haven't entered Naha. I want to. Yeah.
Well, you and I are going to have to hook up on that.
Yeah.
If you in life, and I won't take, let me tell you what I won't take on this one.
Okay.
Here's the question. I'll tell you what I won't take.
Okay.
Is if you had a do-over in life, okay, then what would it be? And what I won't take is I wouldn't change anything because I wouldn't be the person that I am today. But if you could change
Yeah,
one
because that's
thing,
the easy answer, right?
yeah, that's the cop-out answer.
If I had a do-over, I probably would not have wasted the one semester going to college. I went to LBCC for criminal justice. I would not have wasted that semester doing that. I would have gone straight into beauty school.
Wow. I'm going to take that cut out and we're going to play that for beauty schools so that they can know. I love it. Okay, now here's another one. Tomorrow you couldn't do hair or had nothing to do with the industry. What would you do?
That's literally happening, by the way. I told you that. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Well, no, not have anything to do with the industry. I still have a business to run. Okay. Tomorrow, can it be like what happens next month? Because I can tell you for real, for real.
Oh.
All right. So another fun fact about me people don't know is I'm super passionate about music and DJing. And I am going to be creating salon mixes because I'm just thinking about the dynamic in my salon of my age and my younger team and how the music is like such a point of contention. So I'm going to start doing these like fun mashups of like old school beats with like new school lyrics. And it's going to be called the Beauty Blender. So I'm literally going to be DJing and creating mixes while we're traveling around the country.
I'm signed. I want to be your first customer if I'm not already. I want to be your first customer. I love it. And I've got one more, just one more thing that I want to ask, one more question. But if people want to get a hold of you, they want to have a class with you, they want to sign on to some of the things that you have. What do they do? Where do they go?
Multiple things on my Instagram. There is a link for a few things if you're looking to schedule an appointment with me. So as I mentioned, I am in Kansas City. That's where my home base is, my salon. I am going to be traveling around the country, and actually not just for a month. I'm actually going to be traveling around the country for a year, and I'm going to be doing pop-ups. So you're going to have Tippi on tour. So I'm going to be taking appointments in Atlanta, New York, Miami, obviously Kansas City, places like that. So if you're looking, well, you all are hairdressers, so you're not looking to take appointments with me. But if you are, you can find that link on my Instagram page. My education for Mizani is on my Instagram page. I am the Global Artistic Director with Mizani, and I created a curl cutting method called the Air Cut. Yep. And so that link is on that page to find out where those classes are. I'm also a L'Oreal Professionnel color artist, color educator. So you can find that link actually is not on my page, but by the time this comes out, that link will be on my page as well. So if you're looking for a color class, you'll find that there. And then last but not least, if you are looking for any type of mentorship or just, want to grab a cup of tea and, just sit and shoot the breeze or just kind of listen to me like rock out on my DJ turntables, you can hit me up on my Instagram. Just DM me. So it's
Yeah.
at Tippi Shorter.
Love it. And to be clear, but before this makes it on your page, if you want to get a hold of Tippi, all you'd have to do is go to your L'Oreal representative and speak to some of the sales consultants
Yeah.
And
Or
just say,
Salon Centric.
I want Tippi into the salon, and they'll make sure it happens. So
Absolutely.
last one. If you had one wish for our industry, what would that be?
So, which is so funny. I feel like I maybe answered this earlier. And I think this would really help how parents of the new generation of hairstylists feel about it. But I really wish the professionalism of our industry becomes a bit more elevated and really kind of back to that bastardizing of the industry. I really, there was a point where, when I first got introduced to the industry, I would see, I used to go to shows and, the people on stage were like rock stars to me. And that's what really made me want to get into it. But my mom was like, like, no, she's just thinking back to, her and I being in a salon when I was 5 and her hairstylist complaining about, not making enough money, complaining about her feet hurting all the time, complaining about, the veins and the this, the that, all the things. And, not ever having any clients. And my mom just like, she didn't want to have that complaining life for me. And so I would love for our industry to really elevate the amazing positive things and put them out beyond outside of our industry, because in the industry we know how great our industry is, but I'd love for people outside of our industry to know how great our industry is.
Yeah. And sometimes just I think maybe we brought a little bit of it on ourselves, but the other thing I wish, to your point, because I'm so attuned with you on that sometimes I just wish the way that the media and the movie industry portrays us. If they would just find out who the real people is, not some of just the weird people,
Yeah, or
and I think
literally the character. It's a caricature of what we do, and it's quite stereotypical. And but that's a whole different story about films, because that's what happens there anyway. Yeah, exactly. But I just think if people, I will say that with the when tabloid-ish type of magazines came out, they were starting to feature and highlight celebrity hairstylists, and and with Fashion Week, you're learning about people backstage. So I really wish that there was a positive, because there are hairstylist shows, but there's so much drama on those. So I just wish that there were like some positive types of things that really highlight like what we do.
Yeah, and maybe that's just all of our industry is what we got to do. We have to be more positive. We've got to be more kind. We've got to be more respectful to one another, and understand that we come from, if we're coming from a place of abundance where there's enough work for everybody, instead of just trying to come from scarcity and I just want about me,
Absolutely.
I think that this is such an amazing industry that I just think that it's up to us. If we want to do it, it's got to be up to us, not anybody else.
I agree.
Tippi, I've got a new best friend here, and I just, whether you want it or not, I don't care. I'm not taking no for an answer. I feel like I've got a new bestie here, so I just want to say thank you for your time, for your energy, and just more importantly, just for being you. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you. I'm so glad we finally got the opportunity to do this. This has been so much fun. You're incredible, and thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me to share my story.
Well, that's what everybody wants to hear, love.
Yeah.
In the meantime, just thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thanks again for watching this episode. And if you liked what you heard, remember to smash that like or follow button, depending on your preferred platform. And make sure to share it with anyone you know that might be a fellow Headcase. Headcases is produced by Cut Action Media, with Marjorie Phillips doing the planning parts, Lee Baran on the video bits, and Adrian Taverner mixing the audio jazz.